Hey everybody, it's Crypto-Anarchist here, and I'm bringing you another video on cryptocurrencies. In today's video, we're going to be talking about ZCoin and why I think ZCoin should fork, and it all has to do with the block reward. And the other thing I want to point out is that I don't think there's really anything wrong with ZCoin, and I don't think this hard fork should be controversial. It's just a way so that ZCoin can try and figure out what the proper block reward is. Um, without having to lose to a competitor. It's supposed to be a peaceful hard fork, and the whole reason around this is that nobody knows fundamentally whether or not a blockchain with a zero block reward can function. The Bitcoin Cash crowd has done some math saying that it can work. The question is not whether it can work, but whether or not it is the ideal way for a blockchain to run. And on this issue, I am definitely on the tail emission crowd. I think that ZCoin should have a tail emission, but this is the whole reason why I think ZCoin should hard fork, because I know a lot of people within the ZCoin community will say no, we should have no tail emission. It's a very controversial issue. So if you hard fork ZCoin, then you can have two versions of ZCoin, one with a tail emission and one without. And if you do it that way, the great thing about it is that both sides get what they want, and then you can just let the two coins compete on the market. And since the only thing that differs between the two is the block reward, it wouldn't be that hard for the ZCoin development team to keep both coins up and running. Now again, this would obviously be harder than just running one coin, so I think that the ZCoin team should not hard fork yet, and they should not hard fork until maybe they're, until the market cap of the coin gets a lot bigger, and they have, more people working on the development team and things of that nature. But as far as that goes, yeah, I think that this should be added through a hard fork if they ever do a tail emission. But let's go ahead and talk about why I think a tail emission is something that we really should talk about. And it all comes down to 51% attacks. So these recent 51% attacks of different cryptocurrencies like Zencash and Bitcoin Gold really highlighted a serious problem within proof-of-work cryptocurrencies. It's something that most people didn't think was possible, something that I've been saying is possible, and not only is it possible, but it's actually very profitable on a lot of coins right now. Is just a 51% attack. There are different ways to attack proof-of-work cryptocurrencies if that cryptocurrency isn't built properly, where the attacker can gain a lot of money. Okay, so obviously that was proven to be true with Bitcoin Gold and Zencash. And Zencash and Bitcoin Gold have an extra attack vector because they were not ASIC resistant coins. Equihash, or the people who built coins that used Equihash as their hashing algorithm, they all said that Equihash was ASIC resistant, and at least using the parameters that were initially selected for it, like the authors of Equihash said that it wasn't. And so that was kind of an interesting thing for these coin developers to do. And again, it's not the Equihash developers, it's the developers of coins that used Equihash, and they sort of lied to their communities. It's more that they didn't really tell them about this, and so they misled their communities. But that was a big issue because obviously when Zencash and Bitcoin Gold decided to switch their hash algorithm, they basically stabbed the miners in the back because miners had invested tons of money in these ASICs, and not to mention the ASIC manufacturers. It's millions or tens of millions of dollars in order to create a new ASIC machine. And so these ASIC manufacturers had spent all this money trying to create these new machines, and then they got stabbed in the back by the coins that they were trying to help secure. And so at that point, the whole reason why this was a big issue of them changing their hash algorithm is that the only thing that secures proof-of-work cryptocurrencies is the greed incentive. But if someone changes the hash algorithm on you while you already have all these ASICs that are going to become useless here in the next few months after the hash algorithm changes, the greed incentive or the profit incentive for you now as that ASIC owner is to 51% attack that coin. Okay, so it's a really dangerous thing to change a hash algorithm in the way that Zencash, Bitcoin Gold, and all those coins did, where if ASICs come out and then you decide, hey, let's try and hard fork in order to change the hash algorithm. That's a highly dangerous thing to do. Don't stab your miners in the back, because they're the ones who secure your network, and if you stab them in the back, then they might stab you in the back. Okay, so that's what happened with Zencash and Bitcoin Gold. But the secondary issue, or that issue doesn't really exist for MTP, because MTP is supposed to be ASIC resistant. So obviously if ASICs come out for MTP, they're not going to be hundreds of times more efficient than the GPU. So those ASIC owners can't 51% attack that network. So MTP and ZCoin, they don't really have this issue that came to Zencash. But there was one issue with Bitcoin Gold that ZCoin will eventually face, and that was the fact that Bitcoin Gold has a much lower block reward. So as the block reward lowers, so does security. And ZCoin is even considered a tail emission before, but it's always been controversial when they bring it up. I'm on the side of the tail emission people, but again, the fact that it's controversial is why I think this needs to be done in a hard fork, and I don't think this hard fork should be done until ZCoin's market cap is much higher. But if you do a hard fork, then both sides get exactly what they want, and they'll have the same amount of ZCoin on both sides. So like for me, I would prefer the tail emission version of ZCoin, so I would actually probably sell some of my original ZCoin for some of the tail emission ZCoin, but I would still keep some of the original ZCoin just because I don't, fundamentally you can't say as a matter of fact that you know that a tail emission is better or worse for cryptocurrency. Like, I'm very confident that a tail emission is much better for a cryptocurrency, and the main reason I'm confident that a tail emission is better is because throughout the past 50,000 years, the markets have always chosen gold and silver as money, as the global money. It's always been gold and silver have never, and I repeat this, in the 50,000 years, it's probably more than 50,000 years that humans have used gold, but actually it might not even be 50,000. I don't know the exact timeline. At least 10,000. Let's say 10,000 years. In the 10,000 years that humans have used gold and silver, there has never been a single year where the production of gold and silver was zero. Okay, gold and silver always had a positive inflation rate, and they were always chosen as money by the markets. So we know for a fact that the markets prefer money that have a positive inflation rate. We know that for a fact. Okay, so that's why I'm on the side of this tail emission. It's just markets prefer that. The economy runs better on a coin that has positive inflation, and by inflation I'm not saying your price of the coin decreases. I'm saying that you have you don't have a zero block reward. So as long as the block reward is greater than zero, that's what I'm calling inflation. It's just an increase in the money supply. I'm not saying that the price of money has to decrease, and that's different than the modern interpretation of most people's understanding of inflation. But anyways, again, ZCoin is considered this controversial tail emission, but the only way that they'll do it without having risk on both sides is if they do a hard fork. So if you're going to do a tail emission, if you're going to hard fork and add a tail emission, there's some questions you have to ask yourself, and the main question is, what type of tail emission do you want? The first type of tail emission is the static block reward with a set amount of ZCoin or ZCoin that gets minted every single block. So Monero has one of these. It's like 0.3 Monero per block. The issue with the static block reward is that when you do a static block reward, it's the exact same as having a capped block reward in the long run, because eventually if you just have, let's say it's 1 ZCoin per block that gets minted and that goes on forever, a billion years from now the amount of ZCoin in existence would be so high that that 1 ZCoin per block would basically be zero. It'd be basically worth nothing, okay? And so having a static block reward is basically the same thing as having a capped limit on your block reward, and so I don't think that this static block reward is really that attractive to the tail emission crowd. And again, the whole reason why I keep telling you guys this needs to be a hard fork is because if you were to try and put a tail emission on ZCoin, I guarantee you, or without a hard fork, I guarantee you the only thing that the ZCoin developers could get to pass the community would be a static block reward, and that would not be what the tail emission crowd wants, and it's not what the people who don't want a tail emission want. So it'd be bad for both people. So the static block reward, it's better than no tail emission if you want a tail emission, and again, I do want a tail emission, but it's, as far as the three options here, I think it's the worst of all three. The second type of tail emission that you can have is an annual percentage-based block reward, and by this I just mean that you set the block reward so that throughout the year the inflation of your coin is at some stable percentage. So let's say you want a 1% annual percentage-based block reward, then if you had 100 ZCoin at the start of the year, at the end of the year, since you're doing a 1% block reward, you'll have 101 ZCoin. So throughout that year, you would have had, all the block rewards would have added up to 1 ZCoin. And so that's what the annual percentage-based block reward is. So like 2%, if you started the year with 100 coins, you have 102 coins at the end of the year. And the good thing about this annual percentage-based block reward is it's very simple to do. It doesn't really require that. It's not difficult coding. And then you ensure constant security for the network, okay? So because you have the block reward is always a constant percentage of the amount of coins that are already in existence, the security on the network is basically constant. And so this is a very good thing, because obviously once you're like if your block reward goes to 0, the only thing keeping you going is transaction fees. And actually, the Bitcoin Cash crowd, specifically a guy named Joans Vermoral, and I probably butchered his name there, but he went through. He went through and he figured out the costs for running mining rigs if you had terabyte block sizes and how much money you could make, or whether you could make money at all. And you can actually make money, but the big issue that is involved here is that if you're, like, let's say you're running, or if you actually compare the amount of security on the network, where if you have no block reward compared to if you have a percentage-based block reward, you get something like 10 to 100 times more of an incentive for security on a percentage-based block reward. So the security is a couple of, or it's 1 to 2 orders of magnitude, if not more. It sort of depends on what your transaction throughput is, but it's orders of magnitude higher using a percentage-based block reward. So that's a really big thing. And the other thing too here is, again, you always have to remember, like, gold and silver have a positive inflation rate. So somebody is going to come in here and say, no, this is inflation. It's like, yeah, because that's what the market has always chosen as the proper type of money, is a type of money that has a very low level of inflation, okay? A very low level of inflation. That's what you want to shoot for. Markets have chosen this again and again and again, and if you actually have, like, if you're well versed in economics, every single school of economic thought, whether it's Austrians, Keynesians, the London Currency School, I can't remember, or like Marxists, it doesn't matter what economic school of thought you adhere to, every single one of them, they all say that the ideal form of money would be a unit of value, or like a unit of utility. The reason why you can't use a unit of value as money is because there is no such thing as a unit of value. And so Ludwig von Mises actually has a great book that goes over this point a bunch of times. It's actually called Economic Calculation in the Socialist Commonwealth, and it's not actually about what the ideal rate of inflation is. It's just actually about why socialists are wrong when they say you don't want money. And what he says is that the socialist argument is that the ideal form of money is just a unit of value, and Ludwig von Mises says, yes, this is true, but we don't have a unit of value, so the best thing we can use is what the market chooses is money. Okay, so everyone agrees that you want a unit of money with a equal value from year to year, and if you actually go back and you check the value of money during Roman times and Greek times, throughout periods where there's, like, 1,000 years difference, the price of gold and silver, like, it's constant throughout these periods. Okay, so history has shown again and again that you want something with, or a type of money that has equal value throughout the years. And if you have a capped block reward, that means as your economy grows, so does the value of your money. And if your value of your money is growing, obviously it doesn't have stable value. Okay, you want stable value for your money, and you only want stable value once your money has been adopted worldwide. So obviously, as of right now, ZCoin, I'm pretty sure it's got less than 200 million market cap, and so it can increase by 1,000 to 1,000,000 times greater than it is right now if it wants to become the world's money supply. I'm only saying you want equal value per unit of money once your monetary unit is used worldwide as the global money. Okay, so ZCoin's not there, so we don't want ZCoin to have stable value right now. We want its value to increase, but once it is the world's money supply, that's when you want stable value with your money. Okay, but anyways, the annual percentage-based block reward, it will give you a stable value on your money in the long run. There will be fluctuations in the short run, but over the long run, as long as you chose the right percentage for your block reward, you will have stable value. And so that's one thing that Bitcoin can never say that it will have. Bitcoin will never have stable value because as long as the economy grows and Bitcoin has a capped block reward, that means that the price of Bitcoin has to increase at the exact same rate that the economy grows. And that's actually a very negative thing, because as far as investing goes, like if you're building a business and the value of your money increases by, let's say, 10% in 1 year, and your business only makes 8% profits, you actually make 2% loss, because you would have been better off, instead of investing your money in your business, just holding on to your money and doing nothing. And so when you have a capped block reward, it really screws up the loanable funds market. It's really not a good thing. It's really not a good thing whatsoever. But this next thing that I'm going to talk about, this next tail and emission that I'm going to talk about. It's actually the ideal tail emission, but it's not easy to do whatsoever. And I'm not sure if really anybody talks about it except myself. I've tried looking for other people who talk about this, and I don't see anybody else talking about it. So I'm going to say it's my idea. There might be somebody out there who's talked about this before. I'm pretty sure there's not. But just because I watch so many cryptocurrency videos, it's insane. But and I've never seen anybody talk about this. But this idea, it's called the Variable Hashrate Block reward. And so the Variable Hashrate Block reward, it's pretty complicated and it's pretty complex, or if you were to get it to work correctly. But all you do is that you link the block rate reward to the hash rate. So what I mean by this is, like, let's say your block reward is right now, right now for ZCoin it's 50 ZCoin per block. So let's say the hash rate increases, then that means your block reward would also increase. Now, you don't actually want to put a 1-to-1 ratio on, like, let's say your hash rate doubles. You don't want your block reward to double. You actually want to do this logarithmically. So, like, and I'm not going to give you again, just like in the percentage-based thing, the variable hash rate block reward. It's impossible to say the exact mathematical equation that you want to use. Like, I can't tell you exactly the way that you would set it up, but if you set it up logarithmically, it could be something like, let's say your hash rate increases 1,000 times over a year. If you do it just by log to the base 10, that would equal 3 log to the base 10, or 1,000. I don't know exactly how you say this, but I can do the math. 10 to the third power is 1,000, and so log 1,000 to the base 10 equals 3. And so if you set up your variable hash rate block reward in this way, if your hash rate increases 1,000 times, then your block reward triples. Okay, so obviously a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is going to massively increase the block reward, and no, it actually doesn't. In the long run, like once you've plateaued, again, I'm only talking about these things once your currency has become the dominant currency and it is the world's reserve currency. So once ZCoin is the world's reserve currency, the hash rate's not going to keep going up immensely, you know what I mean? It's going to some extent, plateau. It'll always keep increasing. And so the whole point of this then, though, is that if your block reward is linked to the hash rate, what this actually does for your coin is it makes ZCoin mining, like if ZCoin used a variable hash rate block reward, it makes ZCoin mining just like gold and silver mining. And what I mean by this is if you mine gold and silver, or the way that gold and silver mining works is that if the price of gold and silver increases, people invest more in gold and silver mining, and then more gold and silver is produced, which helps to lower the price of gold and silver. And so this is really important because this is the market's supply and demand forces at work. Okay, so as of right now, when there's no block reward with Bitcoin, here in like 30 years, this becomes a problem because there's no supply and demand factor that determines what the production of Bitcoin will be. Technically speaking, right now there still is no supply and demand that affects the creation of Bitcoin. As of right now, it's just a quota. And so that means it's communist in nature. Okay, so this is a big issue because obviously when you have a quota, this causes shortages or surpluses in either way. And so we see that all the time. That's why you see these massive increases in the price of Bitcoin and then these massive drops. And that's because the block reward has nothing to do with the supply and demand for Bitcoin. But like if we followed the price of Bitcoin as it currently went, if you had a variable hash rate block reward, as the price increased incredibly rapidly, so would the block reward, and so the increased block reward would increase the supply of Bitcoin, which would help to lower the price, which actually keeps things more stable. And I know from an investment standpoint, everyone just wants the price of their investment to go up, but from a monetary standpoint, you need some stability to the price. And again, so long as ZCoin is not the world's reserve currency, it has to keep going up, and it has to keep going up until it has a market cap of, I think it's like 200 trillion. It's either 200 trillion or 20 trillion. I'll look that up, and I'll put that in this video. But until ZCoin reaches that market cap, it'll keep going up in general. The issue, though, is that you want to have something that softens this volatility. And so with gold and silver mining, again, if the price of gold and silver goes up, then more is invested in gold and silver mining, and more gold and silver is mined out of the ground, which helps to lower the price. Okay, and so if the price of gold and silver goes down, less gold and silver is mined, which lowers the supply, which helps to increase the price. So if you have a hash rate that's linked to your block reward, then it does the exact same thing, because the hash rate for the most part follows price. I know to some extent that's not true because, again, we're in the early stages of cryptocurrency, so everything has to keep going up and up and up really quickly. But once Zcoin like hit that point where it is the world's reserve currency, then the hash rate would be the only indicator of the market's demand for Zcoin. So if the hash rate increased, that means that people want more Zcoin. Like if the price of Zcoin increases, then the hash rate of Zcoin will increase, and so if the hash rate of Zcoin increases, so does the block reward, and that would help to lower the price. Okay, so then you have market forces at play that actually help to stabilize the price, and you need this for money. Again, this is how it works for gold and silver. And the other point that I want to go back to is, again, I said if you're going to do this variable hash rate block reward for Zcoin, what you actually do is you do a logarithmic based equation. And the reason why this is important is because if you're mining gold and silver, you get diminishing returns on your investment. So the next $1 million you spend on gold and silver mining equipment will get you more money than the second $1 million you invest in gold and silver mining equipment. And the same is true with a variable hash rate block reward, because it's a logarithmically based equation. So again, like the way logarithmic math works is if if you have an increase, the log of 10 is 1, so the way that would work for the variable hash rate block reward is that would mean you would have a 100% increase in the block reward if you have a 10 times increase in the hash rate, but you have to wait for the hash rate to increase 100 times in order to get a tripling of the block reward. Okay, and so this is how the entire thing works, is that if you have a logarithmically based variable hash rate block reward, then you completely mimic gold and silver mining in that there's diminishing returns the more you invest in it. So obviously you don't want somebody to just buy a bunch of miners and then somehow that just inflate the coin away. The way that this is stopped with a variable hash rate block reward is you set it up logarithmically. Now, there's a third point here that is really interesting, and again, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world who has talked about this, so you'll have to forgive me on this, but I just realized when I was thinking about this the other day, the variable hash rate block reward actually eliminates the threat of selfish mining. So if you know how selfish mining works, what you're doing is you try to waste people's hash rate, and the reason why this works is because as of right now, the difficulty factor, or the block reward, doesn't change based on the hash rate. So that means if you waste people's hashes, you don't actually, and because the block time is always set to be at 10 minutes, now for Zcoin they're changing it to 5 minutes, but the block time does not care about hash rate that is wasted. So when you waste this hash rate, it still means that selfish mining is more profitable, because even though the hash rate is wasted, there's still the same amount of Zcoin that would be produced. But if the block reward is linked to the hash rate, since the only reason that selfish mining works is because it wastes it wastes part of the hash rate, if you used a variable hash rate block reward, if someone tried to selfish mine your coin, then they actually are going to lower the block reward, and so it eliminates this threat of selfish mining. So this is very big. The one issue though with a variable hash rate block reward is it's not easy to do. If you have a percentage-based block reward, I said this before, you don't know exactly what percentage is the ideal percentage, so it's not an easy thing to guess at, and if you were to just do a percentage-based block reward, your best bet is just to release a couple and just be like, we're going to have one at 1%, one at 2%, and one at 3%, and then we're just going to see which one wins in the market. With a variable hash rate block reward, the math is a little more complex, and so it's just a little bit harder to get right, because again, there's more going on here, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because you have to also account for the fact that how much or how fast can an ASIC machine mine your coin, and how much are the machines that mine your coins going to increase each year. So a variable hash rate block reward is not something simple to do, but if Zcoin were to do it, it would become the dominant cryptocurrency. I'm personally of the belief that this variable hash rate block reward, it's the holy grail of cryptocurrencies, because again, as I said, right now, the block reward in cryptocurrencies right now, it's communist in nature, it's tyrannical in nature, just because there's no market forces that affect it. Okay, so that doesn't work. You can't say that cryptocurrencies are this great market-based form of currency, yet the block reward is just set in stone. That's not how markets work. Supply and demand has to affect everything. So that's why I think this tail emission thing is a big thing, or it's a big issue. That's why I think Zcoin should fork, but that's also why I think this variable hash rate block reward is it's the biggest thing that nobody has ever figured out for cryptocurrencies. Again, this variable hash rate block reward, all you do is you link the block reward to the hash rate, and it makes the mining of your cryptocurrency exactly like gold and silver. And that's what you want, because gold and silver were chosen by the markets as money since the beginning of time. And the third point here that is just, it's a very interesting side effect, is this variable hash rate block reward, where you link the block reward to the hash rate. If someone tries to selfish mine your coin, because they lower the hash rate of your coin, this lowers the block reward, and it makes selfish mining no longer profitable. Okay, or at least it makes it significantly less profitable. I can't say it makes it not profitable at all, because it depends on the equation you use for your variable hash rate block reward. But it's eliminating selfish mining from your cryptocurrency would be a big thing. Imagine if ZCoin, forked and it tried out a variable hash rate block reward on like ZCoin version 2 or something. I don't know what you call it. Maybe you call it ZCoin variable. I don't know, ZCoin V or something like that. V for variable hash rate block reward. You know what I mean? But you did something like ZCoin V, then you can advertise that ZCoin V is the only proof of work cryptocurrency where selfish mining is not a threat. And that's a big selling point, you know what I mean? But again, this variable hash rate block reward, it's much harder to design. There's a lot more thought that needs to go into this. Yeah, those are the three options. So again, these three options is just that static block reward, the annual percentage base, and the variable hash rate block reward. I don't really care to a huge amount which one ZCoin chooses. I think they should choose one. Oh, I guess I don't want them to do a static block reward, but between the annual percentage base block reward and the variable hash rate block reward, I don't really care that much. But I do think that a block reward is a good thing, because we want to mimic gold and silver, and gold and silver have never had any years throughout their entire existence where their production rates were zero. So to say that, if Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies are supposed to be like digital versions of gold and silver, as far as money goes, for their monetary uses, then they can't have a 0% inflation rate, because gold and silver have never had those. But anyways, again, this is something that I think should be added through a hard fork. It's not something that will matter for years, but I think it's just something interesting that people should think about. I'll make more videos about this variable hash rate block reward in the future, and how to try and, how you could try and set that up. And some of the things you got to think about when you do it. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It went on a little bit longer than I wanted to, but there's a lot of information here that's really good. Let me know in the comments below if you made it this far, if you understood the variable hash rate block reward. I know it's a little bit more technical than most people are capable of as far as crypto goes. I know I've got a very intelligent community here, but I just want to know whether or not this made sense to you guys, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that I am the only person in the world who talks about this variable hash rate block reward. Just like I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world who talks about using Merkle roots and root hashes for cryptocurrency-based applications. And these things, again, it's not like I'm talking about crazy things that are super hard for people to understand. There's very simple things. It's just the way that they're applied to these cryptocurrencies. They have very unique and very advantageous benefits, you know what I mean? So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you understood it. Let me know in the comments below if you didn't, and I'll try and make a better video on it. But there will be more videos coming out soon, so just stay posted.